Hey everybody, welcome to another episode from Sledgehammer Performance Garage. Today we're going to be looking at replacing the tail lights in my 2014 Corvette Stingray with a set of Morimoto Generation 2 C8 style tail lights. Now the advantage of the tail lights offered by Morimoto is that they give you the option of having either sequential or traditional flashing turn signals. So my objective right now is to go through and get all the bolts removed to get this rear bumper cover as loose as I can get it to get the job done. So let's go ahead and get this bumper cover removed and we'll get to installing the brand new tail lights as soon as the FedEx guy comes here. You might see him drive up because it is due to be delivered here any minute. So here we go. Okay, we're back about a half hour later and I've got all the bolts removed from the rear bumper cover. So at this point, I'm going to try and replace these headlights with bumper cover like you see it now. I think it's pretty doable because I can get access to everything that I need. It'd probably be nicer to take it all the way off just to clean up inside. I do see a lot of dust in there, but not a big deal. I'll clean it up as best I can, but I think in the interest of time, for me, this is going to be the best way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and open up the box that I received, and FedEx actually just came a couple of minutes ago, so the timing couldn't have been better. These are the C8 style Generation 2 Morimoto tail lights for the C7 Corvette. I got these from one of my favorite places to shop, and that's vetlights.com, and I took advantage of their 15% off sale for the July 4th holiday weekend, so it worked out pretty good in the end for me. About a week ago I had installed my Generation 2 headlights, and man, did those turn out nice. I've gotten a lot of compliments on them so far. And I did leave them amber like I showed in the original video. Let's go ahead and just open this box. See how things look inside. I expect it to be pretty well packed. My last set of headlights came in just that way. All right. Pulling these out, I can see that we have a nice pair of taillight bezels. And these are painted in gloss black, although they do look to have more of a carbon flash look, so I'm not really sure. I think they're going to blend in just fine with my existing carbon flash trim, so if not, you know, if I ever feel so inclined, I can take these off and get them painted pretty easily, because I'm sure they'll pop out as easy as the stockers did. Set these aside. And then we can have a look at our taillights. Now with mine, I opted for the smoked clear option. And I really like it because I originally had taillight blackouts on mine because I really didn't like the red. And I kind of went with that same theme with these. I'm going to leave the plastic on these for now, but these are really nicely packed. And it does also come with an instruction sheet. And we're going to need this because I need to make sure that these two wires are set up correctly. Because any combination of these are going to give you either the startup sequence that you would like, and then also the sequential taillights versus the classic flashing. I'm going to opt for sequential and the startup feature, just because I think it's really cool. And I think a lot of modern cars have that. It's kind of a trendy thing, I know, but I really like it, and that's the main reason I got these taillights. Before I get these up to the car to install, I wanted to show you one thing. So look at the documentation to see what combination of wires I was going to use to get my sequential taillights and that cool startup sequence. So all I had to do was disconnect this green wire, and I left the yellow one connected. So I'm going to have to remember to do that on my passenger side taillight. But they did include a nice little mounting bracket so that you can place these wires right behind the taillight bezel in the outer corner. So that way, if you change your mind later on, it's just a matter of popping that bezel out, and then you can just change your wiring orientation to the way you'd like it. But I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to like having the sequential and the startup sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and take my first light over, pull the old one out, and install this one. Ready to remove my passenger side tail light. So I have the electrical connector disconnected. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the 4 sub-millimeter bolts holding this in. Now I will tell you, for this bottom bolt, it would have been a lot easier to take this rear bumper cover all the way off, but I'm going to struggle with it and see where we can get. There, I can see it a little bit better now. And there we go. Passenger side tail light is out. So I am going to hang on to these just in case I ever change my mind. I always keep all my stock parts on hand, just in case I want to reverse course at some point. Okay, and here is our passenger side tail light. And I've already taken my green wire off. So again, that's going to give me my proper startup sequence and the sequential tail lights that I am looking for. We just slide that into place. It's going to be best for me to put my top bolt back in first. Just to hold it in place. This is actually the most secure of the remaining bolts. And of course I misplaced my ratchet. There it is. Don't want to use my little impact on these because I would hate to torque them a little bit too tight and snap something, especially when you're dealing with plastic. Okay, that's nice and tight. And these holes actually perfectly line up, which I expected based on my experience with the headlights. Morimoto seems to really pay attention to detail in their products. Now, one thing that you don't want to forget is turn this off. Oh, Jesus. I did grab this out of the box, and this is to allow you to attach that wiring harness that I showed you, the one that allows you to select your startup sequence and your turn signal action. This is designed to go in the lower outside bolt of the headlight so that you can leave those wires dangling just behind the bezel. Makes it easy if you ever want to change things up. You can just pop that bezel off rather than having to tear into the whole bumper once again, which is something you don't really want to have to do very often. I'm going to go ahead and get this bottom one installed here. 2 more bolts left to go. Alright, so that's secured. Got one more bolt down the bottom. This is going to be a little fun to find, but I think I've got enough room here. There we go. Operating a little bit blind on this one, but as I said, luckily since these holes just all line up, it makes it pretty easy. I guess, you know, if you're on the fence about doing the work yourself, I would say that this is a pretty easy job. If you watch enough videos on how to take this back bumper cover loose or even off, if you want to go that far, once you get past the anxiety of popping those plastic pieces apart, it's a really easy job. I mean, it's kind of interesting seeing how GM designed this. It's almost like putting a Lego set together when you get down to it. But once you see how things go back together, it makes it all make sense where you're supposed to apply your pressure points when you are taking all this stuff apart. So I'm going to be pretty comfortable with this from now on, just like I am with taking that front bumper cover off. Okay, so the last thing for this side then is I'm going to take my factory wiring harness, plug that right into, after I take the sales tag off, maybe. Apparently I'm not strong enough to break string, but okay. Okay. Now I believe this red wire is here to power that backup booster light, which I did not opt to get. I think the camera and the lights are pretty good on these, so I can see pretty well, so it wasn't going to be a needed option for me. Make sure you get that satisfying click on that tail light. And that's it for the passenger side. So now the next thing to do is to make sure that it actually works before we attempt to put this driver's side one in and then seal this thing back up. Okay, so I'm just doing a test before I do the passenger side, just to make sure things are working the way they are supposed to. So this is the passenger side with the headlights on, and we'll compare that to the factory. Those are flashing just because of a frame rate difference between the tail lights and my camera. Not sure why the LEDs on this side don't do that, but it's pretty cool that they don't. Okay, so next I'm going to put the hazards and the turn signals on just to make sure that those operate sequentially like I am expecting them to. Okay, these are the hazard lights on. This shows you the difference between the Morimoto side and the stock kind of dated looking side. And I got to tell you guys, I am really happy that I went with the smoked version, because when these are off, it just looks like I've got my blackouts right back on my factory tail lights, which I like. Not a big fan of red. But again, here's the difference. Okay, everybody. So I've got both taillights in. Both are working correctly. And honestly, I did have enough working room to get everything that I needed to. So I'm kind of glad I didn't take this all the way off, because I didn't want to have to deal with, dropping it or weird things like that, disconnecting more wiring than I really needed to if I could get to it from this way. So yeah, I would have liked to have cleaned that up in there from 10 years of road grind, but that's okay. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is get this bumper cover back on. I'd like to have two people to do this, but a lot of times this is just a one-man show, so let's hope that everything goes on without a hitch so I can get this thing buttoned up and get these lights going. So pretty excited about that, but got a little bit of work to do getting this back bumper cover back on and getting all of these screws back in place. I know I've got them all lined up and ready to go, so I know I will not have lost any, which is a good thing when you're dealing with stuff like this. So here we go, one-man show.
1 hour later.
So the bumper cover is back on, everything's aligned correctly, all the screws are in place, except for those 3 that I have left to do on the floor. But that said, let's go ahead and look at what the startup sequence looks like, what I chose to enable with my pair of headlights. I'm going to hit the unlock button, and we'll see that whole cool sequence come into play. Pretty fancy. You can see that it lights up real nice. Okay, I just hit the lock button. We got a little bit of a shutdown sequence there, and we're all quiet again. So I'm going to hit the unlock button once again. Really cool startup sequence. Man, that is really fancy. One more time, and I'm going to run to the front of the car. Okay, the sequence commenced. We'll go around the car. I see my side lights are still working. Front lights working. And there are the Morimoto C8 style headlights, which I think are really cool. And if you'd like to see a video on those, subscribe to my channel, and you'll be able to see the installation of these, which I performed a couple of weeks ago. They turned out nice, and took about the same amount of time as the taillights did. Thanks for hanging out with me today in the Sledgehammer Performance Garage. Hope you enjoyed this video on replacing your stock taillights with Morimoto Generation 2 C8 style. It's a good idea to pair these with the Morimoto headlights, and I suggest that you stop by vetlights.com or give them a call and talk to Cole to get a great deal on these lights. Your C7 will enjoy it, and you will be seen on the streets.